Welcome to episode 29 of the NonFunGerbils podcast. I'm Luke.
And I am George.
And today we welcome back Alan Carr, game designer for Dapper Labs. We have a really nice deep dive into NBA Topshot, what it is and everything that's happened around the phenomenal growth that it's seen this year. At the end, we read out some NonFunGerbil stories written by you and announce the winner for Baller Gerbil. We also lay out our next competition and artistic collaboration. This was such an enjoyable conversation. We hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the NonFunGerbils podcast, the show about digitally scarce gerbils, non-fungible assets, and the growing decentralized economy.
Alan Carr, also known as Alan Falcon, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back.
It's really great to have you back on. The last time we spoke was in May on episode 13, and it was just before Topshot launched, actually. And so we were talking about everything that was up and coming. And since then, Topshot has been an astronomical rocket that's shot through the stratosphere and up to the moon and is somewhere off near Jupiter at the moment. So it would be great to start off, maybe just talking a little bit about what Topshot is, sort of an overview and what you do within it.
Yeah, you mentioned that our last talk about this was in May. Funny story, in May, I was there's this artist, Diego Rodriguez, who does a lot of the art for Neon District, another cool NFT project out there. And he had just posted a commission he'd done for somebody. And I reached out to him and asked him, how much to commission him for a piece of artwork that I wanted to have made. And he quoted me a very fair price and one that I could not at the time afford. And so I messaged a bunch of my friends. I'm like, hey, can y'all buy 1 million Topshots so that I can afford it to commission Diego? And just before this call, I commissioned Diego. So
amazing.
That's how Topshot's been doing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, to answer your question a lot more directly, NBA Topshot is kind of the first of its kind next generation sports collectibles. We've taken everything we love about blockchain and NFTs and everything that we love about basically sports trading cards and the sports collectibles world, and then got rid of all of the things we didn't love about that and put it all into this product where we have a deal with the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association as well to officially license and give fans and collectors the opportunity for the first time ever to collect the best plays from the NBA as digital collectibles. And that is at NBATopshot.com. On that team, I am a designer. I work heavily with the content team as well. And I should clarify, when I say designer, I am not at all responsible for the amazing graphics, the user interface design, or the like collectible itself, which is this really cool 3D cube that's fully animated and one day we hope fully interactive as well. Imagine getting to spin that thing and like zoom in on it and like activate videos all like on your phone, for example. Like we still have a bunch to come. That'll be great. But when I say design, I'm talking more about the system and economy design, and that's my focus. I helped come up with the whole idea that there's commons and rares and legendaries, and of course none of this is groundbreaking. This is all like I said, we've taken the best of digital collectibles, we've taken the best of sports collectibles and sports cards, and just kind of boiled it down into something that's the best it can be, and what we want in a collectible product. And I feel like we've gotten there, and it's very exciting.
Do you have any stats that you could sort of give us about the recent state of play and what's been happening?
So one thing that I've been kind of marveling over is that the thing about hockey stick growth that you don't really realize when reading about it in a textbook. I went to like business school for entrepreneurial management, and of course they tell you, make sure that your slide deck has the hockey stick slide graph on it, right? Because that's what all the investors want to see, et cetera, et cetera. And so you do it, and obviously it's like number go up, and that's exciting. But then when it's happening in real time, the way that it works is you're steady for a long time. You're growing a little bit. You're getting more and more people on board, and it's interesting, and you're hungry, and you want to see more, and then something happens in the world, you do something, or somebody writes the right blog post or puts out the right video or mentions you in the right setting, and all of a sudden the number of people who are on your product double, and then a week later they double again, and then a week later they double again, and it's that hockey stick just keeps being a hockey stick. And it's kind of surreal to experience from the inside, the way that I and the team have had the opportunity to do so. Of course, parts of the Dapper Labs team have experienced something like this before when they launched CryptoKitties. I joined the team because of the growth of CryptoKitties, so I didn't get to experience that from the inside. I experienced it from the outside, and it felt very different at the time to me then. And then, of course, the biggest difference between CryptoKitties and NBA Topshot, other than the fact that Top Shots don't breed with each other, is that CryptoKitties was severely restricted by the network it was on, Ethereum. Like, they had 1 million people visiting the website, and 99.9% of those were like, what is this MetaMask thing? I couldn't figure it out. It was way too complicated for most people. And then even then, the 0.1% who did figure it out was more than the Ethereum network could handle. And I mean, even today, the Ethereum network is practically unusable unless you like spending hundreds of dollars to, perform a single action, which is kind of painful. But we saw the writing on the wall. We built the Flow blockchain, and the team did an amazing job putting that together over the past 2 years while we worked with the NBA to design a product that we thought was, necessary or worthy of such a blockchain. And so now NBA Topshot doesn't have that restriction. Now we are able to grow. We are able to double and double. And we've also built the Dapper wallet, which gives such a better user experience. It's the username and password that people are so used to. And instead of forcing people to figure out how to go buy cryptocurrency, we let them pay with a credit card. And so the barriers to entry aren't there. And as a result, we have had, I don't know what the exact numbers are anymore. They're changing constantly, but over $57 million, I think, in secondary market sales alone. That doesn't even count pack sales or anything like that. And then to put that into perspective, CryptoKitties, again, which was the biggest consumer blockchain application by any metric, pretty much, over the course of 3 years now, has had some $30 million. And so Topshot just shot right past everything. And then we were marveling yesterday morning, Topshot also passed the number of marketplace transactions that CryptoKitties has had. So not only are these things seen as more valuable, and not only are there more people, buying some of these for thousands and tens of thousands, and in a few cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, but even the inexpensive ones, right? The commons that I referenced are being bought and sold at crazy volumes, and in just a few months, we've passed CryptoKitties in those metrics, and we are seeing no signs that there's any reason why this would slow down. Maybe the hockey stick growth has to stop at some point. Exponential growth, I imagine it has to end at some point. But in terms of interest in the product and daily volume, every single day we're seeing over $1 million in secondary marketplace volume, which is over $500 million over the course of a year. It's truly amazing looking at the actual numbers.
That's amazing. It's a good job you didn't try and launch this on Ethereum then.
Absolutely.
How has Flow dealt with? How has the chain dealt with this number of transactions?
Yeah, so it's been very interesting, right? Because when we did this with CryptoKitties, even when we were doing Cheese Wizards, which had a very small kind of group of people who really bought into that concept. With Cheese Wizards, though, the things that we were doing on chain were a whole lot more complex, and so it was still using a big chunk of the network just to run that game. And it was a huge limitation on the design of Cheese Wizards. Like a lot of the choices we made that really kind of held it back were choices of necessity because of limitations of Ethereum and trying to be efficient in terms of gas usage to the best of our ability. So we were so used to being constrained by the blockchain as the constraint. And now with NBA Topshot, we've got so many people that our website has been having some trouble catching up. We're getting a lot better at scaling all of that up. And also our payment processors keep shutting us down because whenever we do a drop, it looks like a DDoS attack because of all of the people who are on the site trying to buy packs. That our payment processors are like, whoa, you gotta, we only can serve real people, and we're like, nah, there's just too many people actual people who really want these, and so we haven't run into the limitations of Flow, whatever they may be, because they're just so much beyond, even with the limitations of our own like back end server hardware and payment processor are, and Flow is still, not even at its full capacity. There's a lot of optimizations and room for growth there that the team's fully aware of. But when you build a blockchain in a couple of years, you have to prioritize certain things first, and they prioritize getting it working before getting it, working as well as it can. So it'll even continue to improve. But Flow has held up great through all of this, which is amazing.
That's awesome. I think was it last week that you had 20,000 people vying for 2,200 packs that were going on sale?
Yes, indeed. We dropped our Hollow Icon, which was our first legendary pack drop since things totally exploded. You can kind of look at another legendary pack drop that we did, Deck the Hoops, which kind of coincided with the beginning of things exploding for Topshot. But like if you look at the number of collectors in Topshot, right, the vast majority, this was their very first non-common pack drop, actually, because so many people are new to the platform. And we had 20,000 people trying to get in line to buy the Hollow Icon drop, and actually we almost solved it. We think we have a new system in place that can be a lot more fair, where everybody who shows up on time, you can't be a minute late, but as long as you show up on time, in theory, you get a random place in line, and it's kind of a fair distribution. It feels unfair in that 90% of people are still not going to get what they want, and unfortunately, that's the reality of scarcity. But at least you don't feel like you were left out for a bad reason. Like I said, we almost got there. Unfortunately, we did end up having an issue with our implementation of the system, and there was an issue in the system itself. And the two of those combined, and the set of circumstances of the drop, meant that we ended up in a situation where some people ended up in the line, and some people kind of got to bypass the line because they stood in line the night before, which is obviously not how this is supposed to work, and not what we were expecting would happen. So the team is hard at work at, they fully identified what happened there, and they're hard at work at making sure that our next drop will be really clean and smooth and fair. And again, we certainly can't guarantee everybody will get a pack, but we can do a lot better job of making sure that everybody feels like they had a fair shot at it.
I managed to get into line for that, and I think I was like 3,500 in line. And so I was like, okay, I'm in line, it's fine. The number is going down. I went and got a drink, and I came back, and as I sat down, I reached over to the mouse, and I have two mice on my desk, and I accidentally clicked on the mice next to the one I use, and it somehow clicked the closed tab.
Oh no!
The tiny little closed tab cross, and it clicked it and it just disappeared, and I just went, oh man. What are the chances of that?
If it makes you feel any better, you had no chance at that bottom line.
I know, yeah. I realized this later. There's such high stakes on getting a Topshot pack now that the pressure that's in the community around these events is just mind-boggling. If it doesn't go as planned, people get very emotional about it and they get very upset. And I guess that comes when you've got that hockey stick. Right. And there's so much at stake because the increase in price potential and what you might get in your pack is so large that, high stakes game.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to share your story of how that high stakes game has the potential to play out, but we've certainly seen some success stories among especially those who believed in us early on. You look at someone like Whale Shark. Whale Shark showed up when we opened the closed beta, and he'd been saying over and over again, like he was sad that he missed out on CryptoKitties when it was early. And as an investor, his thesis is get in early, and so he's like held out. He hasn't collected CryptoKitties. I would argue that in some sense we're still very much early there, but that's okay. That's his investment philosophy. But he believed in the team at Dapper Labs, and he believed in what we were building with NBA Topshot. And when that came out, he dropped a huge amount of money on the Cosmic packs, which were the legendary packs at the time. And then he saw the opportunity to buy out another collector who was getting cold feet, who had also invested heavily at first. And bought that whole account out, and so ended up with a whole lot of moments from very early on in NBA Topshot and stuck them in his vault. And it's been 6-7 months since then, and the value of his vault is now somewhere in the $9 million range according to Intangibles Market. He did not spend $9 million, to be clear. He made a significant, bet on the future of Topshot as a collectible, but nothing near that. And so that's one of the big success stories. And then I think you can, a lot of people are familiar with Pranksy, or Pranked as he used to be known. And what he's been doing in the NFT space. And he also very much believed in NBA Topshot, made a large investment in it as the future of sports collecting, and did his thing, and has continued actually to double down and triple down, even as he's sold a bunch of moments. And he's sold over $1 million on the marketplace so far, and has a collection worth many times more than that. It's pretty incredible what some people have been able to do. Now, we don't see this as a scheme for people to make a lot of money.
# not financial advice.
Exactly. That is not why we built this, right? But we're, of course, all aware of the fact that one of the coolest things about blockchain and these digital collectibles is that, in a sense, they're an asset class. You can put your money where your passion is, and you're not just setting it on fire, right? If you need the access to that money later, it might be painful, but you can sell your collection. If you have to have an emergency surgery and you're sitting on a LeBron that people keep offering you $100,000 for, and you keep telling them no, but suddenly you really need that $100,000, you can sell it to them. And that's... And you can do so in a way that's completely trustless, super fast. You have access to the whole worldwide market. There's no risk. There's no waiting period where you send your collectible off to a grading agency and they sit on it for several months, and then you hope that they send it back with good news and that they didn't destroy it in the process, which sometimes happens, and it doesn't get lost in the mail, which sometimes happens. And yeah, we all know that these things do have real value, and that's a big part of what makes them so special. But yeah, we didn't build them so that people could make small or large fortunes. That's just something that's been happening.
Well, it's amazing that you make those points, because those are some of the reasons why these are becoming so valuable. I think it's because people see into the future, and they see NBA, but it's more than the NBA. It's actually an architecture for selling and collecting sports cards online, and name a sport, right? I mean, like football. There's so much there, and I think also the other thing is, I was very lucky, along with Luke, to be involved in the project, as you say, from the early days, and I've woken up in the mornings and my little red dot has appeared on the on the bell, on the notification bell, and I get a little kind of like, oh, what's happened overnight, and then I switch it on and I'm like, oh, well, okay, that's opened overnight. Okay, cool. So it's been an incredible experience.
It's a little bit bittersweet, isn't it? Because sometimes those numbers are very nice, but also at the same time, you're like, I used to own that, and now I don't.
Well, entirely, absolutely, and I think the hockey stick took a lot of people by surprise, right?
It did.
And suddenly I'm like taking every Cosmic I have off the marketplace. Just take them all off now,
right?
Because it's too early. So I personally have had some wonderful experiences with this product, and I can see how it all of this feeds into the sort of the folklore of the project, and it becomes history. Mm-hmm. As the stakes go up and people sell higher and higher, and the word goes out that a LeBron has sold, or it's just really exciting for everyone involved to see those sort of benchmarks take place, and clearly there's more benchmarks to come. In that regard, give us a flavor of what the sort of the next steps are on the roadmap. I know there's talk of a game. But there's also probably different kinds of packs that you have planned, and other NBA seasons to come. So give us an idea of the roadmap.
Sure. So we've taken a very long-term view, a long-term outlook on this partnership, on this product, obviously on this technology, right? And so everything that we have done and everything we are doing is factoring in that long-term horizon. Nothing that we've done or will do is about, trying to make money today. We're okay on money, right? and we believe that these things will take care of themselves. We're trying to build value, and we're trying to build a community, and we're trying to build, like I said, the future of sports collecting. And we know that as long as we remain good stewards of the product, that this is just going to be amazing for everybody, and ourselves especially, right? Like we built the Flow blockchain to solve these problems and to create a blockchain that can scale to consumer grade experiences. And then we built the consumer grade experience, to try to show people, how this can all work. But it's not our blockchain anymore, right? We have this sense towards progressive decentralization. And I know you're asking about Topshot as a product, but I think that just understanding our company philosophy and our long-term view is really important. We're invested, obviously, incredibly heavily in the future of Flow and the success of Flow, but it's something that everybody can partake in, and it is its own network there. And so, again, we know that the best way to make sure that the thousands and millions of developers and consumers who want to partake in the future of this kind of digital collecting to make sure that they build on Flow and that they come to Flow to find projects. We needed to create a user experience that shows off everything that Flow offers and that is Topshot. And then we can't have that be, a quote unquote money grab or something. It has to be a long-term sustainable project. So we've always taken that long-term view. We've been I think if you look back at Series 1 and the value of Series 1 moments, but also the lore that you mentioned of Series 1, it was no accident that we launched with Cosmic as a legendary set. It was no accident that those print runs of all of the moments in Series 1 look, even now, just a couple months into the new season, they look itty bitty. We knew that we could have minted a lot more. And even today, when we launched Hollow Icon last week, we knew we could have 10x to the size of that set, for example, and still sold out instantly and just made 10 times as much money, essentially. But is that what's best for the long-term health of the platform? No, because those legendary moments, we're committed to making sure that they feel and are legendary in terms of scarcity as well. And so again, we're leaving money on the table. Now there's more legendary packs to come. We're looking at something roughly, and this is very roughly, like a legendary drop perhaps every 3 to 4 weeks. Hollow Icon specifically is designed as a set that highlights the top players and the most exciting players from every NBA team. And so this was just the first of what will probably end up being 3 drops that will help us actually get there. So when you look at the set, you'll notice a lot of the biggest names aren't there yet. In fact, you can probably do the math and find that approximately 2/3 of the biggest names aren't there yet, because we do have 2 more Hollow Icon drops coming. But we're also really excited. We did our first Run It Back drop to end Series 1 and to end everything before we started this new season, NBA season. But when you look back at the history of the NBA, there's decades and decades of epic plays and epic players, and people are so hungry to get their hands on those. And so we picked a particular year to run it back to last series, and we're picking another year this year to focus on. We'll also go back to the 2013-14 season, but we're also going to go to a new year this year and bring out some players there. And one of the most exciting things, and especially to everybody today, especially if you're feeling like you missed out on being early, no, we have really just gotten started. We mentioned 20,000 people showing up to try to buy $1,000 pack. But compared to the size of the NBA fan base, again, the vast majority of people still haven't heard of us, and that's absolutely okay. We need to take a little bit of time here to keep up with some of our growing pains. But one of the coolest things is for this series, for Series 2, we worked out a lot of answers to how we want to do things from experimenting during Series 1. And so now in Series 2, we're able to bring a lot of that to fruition. So you'll see things like the same play not appearing in multiple sets for the most part. And so there's a lot more variety in plays. And also, partially related to that, we're able to introduce a lot more players to NBA Topshot who weren't here in Series 1. And that includes both rookies this year, of course, who weren't available last year, but also just a wider range of players from your favorite teams in the NBA. And we've talked about this publicly, but the thinking is that we'll have a special badge on to recognize the first appearance in NBA Topshot of players. And so that's both kind of some role players who didn't have plays last year, or players who might have been injured last year who are playing for the first time and available for Topshot for the first time this year. And then that kind of run it back style set where we look back at a prior season is an amazing opportunity to, for example, have our first Shaquille O'Neal play, and anybody who's just joining the platform today is going to have an opportunity to get their hands on that first Shaquille O'Neal Top Shot play alongside everybody else. So that's one of the kinds of things that we have very much to look forward to this season. And it's not too late to be so early, right? A year from now, people will be saying, "Damn, I wish I was there when the first Shaq dropped." And you know, it's not like you had to be here in June of last year in order to kind of benefit from being early and being an early adopter. And I should qualify that, you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. We've talked about the growing pains that we felt because of all the growth. And part of being an early adopter and part of being a beta tester is taking those downs and those rough experiences alongside with the opportunities. And we really appreciate the patience that we get from people, and we understand the frustration from the people who can be very vocal about their frustrations. Rohan likes to say that the opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy. And that's something we see none of in this space. There's absolutely no apathy here.
That's awesome. So you're making a move towards spreading out the individual plays amongst different tiers. That's because that's something that I hoped would happen, and I think that will add to it.
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback from Series 1 from people like just confused. Like, why is the same play a legendary and a rare and a common? And there were definitely some people who got it and got what we were going for there. This kind of parallel to parallels in the sport, in the card collecting world, where you'll have maybe 10 different versions of the same trading card. And the only difference is they have like a different colored, you know, or different pattern border on them. And each different color is a different scarcity, right? One of them is a 1 of 1, one's a 1 of 10, one's a 1 of 50, one's a 1 of 299, one doesn't even have serial numbers attached. And in the sports collecting world, sometimes people like collecting a rainbow, right? They try to get one of everything. And that becomes an extra special collection. And we knew that some people would like that, right? It's really cool to own the LeBron James tribute dunk that he did, but it's even cooler to own that play in every set that it came out in. So there were a lot of things we liked about that design, but at the same time, the amount of confusion and the number of people who didn't quite get it was potentially holding us back. And also, frankly, you know, there's so many amazing plays that happen in the NBA every single day that we just wanted to be able to highlight and feature more of them. And so by making the decision to not have that kind of parallel experience and have different plays appear in different sets and different tiers, we have a lot more design space to include a lot more variety of plays. And those range from things that are entirely unexciting looking, but very historic, like the LaMelo Ball first ever career assist, which is the least exciting basketball play you'll ever see, but possibly one of the most significant plays of the season and of Top Shot this year because of everything LaMelo Ball is and all of the promise he has and how well he's living up to that promise. And how much of that promise is around his ability to make incredible assists. And while his first ever NBA assist wasn't incredible, it was historic in that sense. And so we're able to capture something like that now because we have so much more space, and we'll be able to bring in some of the spectacular highlights, assists and dunks and 3-point shots that he's made over the course of the season as well.
Is there any plan to move into like women's basketball, which was one of Flaz's questions actually?
Yeah, so absolutely. One of our the team members most responsible for putting together this deal with the NBA are both women. Katie and Abby did a phenomenal job explaining everything, being very patient with the NBA. The NBA was interested and excited to learn about this opportunity and learn about what we could bring. But especially before there was even something to show anybody, other than maybe some cats that were, DTF, they did an amazing job of explaining the value proposition to the NBA and working with them to figure out what this product should look like and what the fan experience would be. And Katie is extraordinarily excited to do the same thing for the WNBA, as well as you mentioned other sports leagues. This is clearly sort of a template that works very well among a lot of different sports, but the WNBA in particular is very special to us and close to us, and something that we're super interested in putting together and working with them. And some of our investors at Dapper Labs are NBA players. One of them is JaVale McGee, and he was on a podcast or a show called Boardroom talking about his investment in Dapper Labs and in NBA Topshot. And they asked him, what is the moment you most want to collect? And his answer was he wants to collect a moment of his mother playing in the WNBA. And his mother was a WNBA player. And I don't know how we can say no to that, right?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, yeah. So the answer to your question is we'd love to do that. I absolutely see us doing that. We have all of the pieces in place to be able to do that. We have every bit of interest in doing that. And I can't really speak to the future, but I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, the template has been set now, hasn't it? And it's proven its worth and proven its ground. And so I guess that opens the doors to all the other sports leagues and games and every variation that you can get on it.
And you mentioned earlier the potential of what happens when there's more being built on the Flow blockchain, when you can take your top shots and maybe take them off of your custodial Dapper wallet and use them with other experiences. And the very cool thing about this template being proven and our ability to potentially work with the other sports leagues to also, create similar experiences for them on Flow is that if you want to interact with sports collectibles, and of course, sports collectibles are just where we started. But if you want to interact with sports collectibles, which is no small thing, you're going to want to build on Flow. You're going to want to build your fantasy sports leagues like Swish is doing on Flow. You're going to want to build your secondary markets and your trading platforms and your sports stock markets and everything on Flow, because that's where all the sports fans are interacting with the digital collectibles effectively right now.
There's been a sort of big influx of people come from the sports fantasy leagues.
Yes.
And I met Jonathan Bales and Jeremy Levine and actually sold them my number one Cosmic Jar Morant for $35,000, which I was very happy with at the time and happy to let it go for that. And at the time, that was a record-setting sale.
Absolutely. We talked about the catalyst that kind of kicked off some of this hockey stick growth. And I think we can all point to that sale, that moment. And in particular, Bales's blog post, kind of tongue-in-cheek, explaining what he had just done and inviting people to criticize it. But in order to criticize it, you have to look into it. And what happened is people came, they wanted to criticize it. They came to look into it and they were like, oh wait, there's something here. And also Bales is extremely smart and people know that. And so we've heard over and over again, wow, if he's serious about this, then there must be something here. And that did drive a lot of people to check it out. And especially people in the daily fantasy sports world where turns out they have a lot of money, like crypto people have, and they're very into sports, and they're very into marketplaces, and making calls on the future of players, that sort of thing, which interacts very well with Top Shot.
That was an amazing blog post, and one of the key points that hit home with me was that when you're buying high value traditional trading cards, you won't be the custodian. You won't be looking after them. They will go and sit in a safe somewhere, never to be looked at, never to be held. And so buying a high value digital item, you get much more enjoyment out of it because you can interact with it. You can have it on your phone. You can look at it. You can transfer it. And actually, you have a closer relationship with a digital asset than you do a real asset because of the way that you have to keep them.
It's pretty crazy, right? Because it's absolutely not what your intuition tells you. But that's because for most of us, our intuition is relating to our experiences of buying, $3 packs on the corner store and pooling, worthless cardboard that isn't high end, and so we don't stick that stuff in a vault. But you're absolutely right, especially at the high end, like where it's extremely negative EV to be able to see it with your own eyes, basically. It is so much more intimate to have the digital collectable.
Yeah, and I guess you're not degrading it as well, and
Yeah,
even if it's on a hardware wallet, you can still view that wallet on your phone. Yeah,
you can share it with all of your friends. You can share it with strangers. You can pass it around the room, and you don't have to worry.
Worry about them stealing it. Yeah,
exactly. Getting their dirty fingerprints on it,
So I think since then they've been buying moments for more than $100,000.
Yes, we've seen some very cool podcasts spring up around NBA Topshot, and lots of video podcasts, and lots of kind of early collectors in the space making the rounds on some of these podcasts. And one of the most interesting that I saw was Andy, who had purchased the legendary From the Top LeBron James tribute dunk that I referenced earlier. He bought the number one serial number for, I think it was like $73,000, which again at the time was a record. And he tells a story about how he was planning to buy it for $50,000, but he had like an appointment he had to go to or something. And so he like stepped away from the computer for an hour or two and came back, and the price had been delisted and relisted at $73,000. And so it was like a $20,000 appointment that he had gone to, but nothing in his mind had changed. It was a moment he knew he wanted to buy. He just needed to deposit more funds in order to pick it up now. And so he grabbed that, before it got delisted and relisted again. And on that podcast, they asked him, I don't know exactly how serious they were, but it sure sounded pretty serious to me. If I offered you, I don't remember the exact number, $400,000 right now for that moment, would you sell it to me? And he instantly said no. Right. So, and this was like a week or two after he had purchased it for $70,000. So that to me is very interesting. And there's an author that I love, Robin Sloan, who wrote Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore. He wrote a fun novel called Sourdough. He's very much into the Silicon Valley space. He's very kind of alternate sort of guy. He grows olives and presses olive oil and sells like artisanal olive oil on the side, in addition to being an author. Right? He does a lot of fun stuff. He has a fun newsletter, the Society of the Double Dagger. But I follow him on Twitter as well, and he had posted a question asking whether NFTs, make sense. Do they actually have value? And like he said, it's not that I'm skeptical. I'm just like, are there any data points to support it? And I replied and told him that anecdote around the $400,000 offer that where Andy, who had bought that moment and who had talked about how special it was to him, like the actual play itself, as well as the historical value of it as this blockchain collectible from NBA Topshot Series 1. Maybe one of the most meaningful moments that we've released in terms of the play, but also like one of the most meaningful digital collectibles that exists because of its historical significance. And he's someone who is very active in the DeFi space and as a sports fan. And so this is like the perfect intersection for him. And he said he's probably never going to sell it. And so I relayed that anecdote to Robin. He's like, yeah, that's a hell of a data point. And we see that everywhere, right? That people really value these things and value owning these things. And the world is very, very slowly starting to notice and catch on. And we talk about this hockey stick growth, and we talk about like how incredible these numbers are, right? Like over $1 million a day in secondary sales. And that's with just a few tens of thousands of people who are aware of Top Shot today. That number is going to continue to change. The number of people who are aware of and interact with and believe in digital collectibles is going to continue to change as more and more people, start asking the questions, start asking for data points, and start doing more than just making fun of buying YouTube clips, right? And it's really cool to see, and it's so cool to be a part of helping build that for everybody.
One of our community, Flaz, I've mentioned him earlier, he's put a lot of effort and time into building a complete collection of Series 1 base. And I asked him before that, I said, when are you gonna sell some things? And he said, sell? What do you mean?
Yeah, I found that I love building my collection. Like everyone else, I've also enjoyed seeing some of the numbers go up, right? And imagining like, it could be cool. It could be cool to buy a house with the value of my collection, right? Which is insane. Because I did not spend house money buying that. But at the same time, like, no, I my collection is so special, right? And I'll get a house another way, right? And so
you're like Hodl Gerbil, living on a park bench with your ledger.
Precisely. And so I found that I kept wanting to buy two of everything instead, right? One to hold and one to kind of maybe realize some of the amazing growth within the platform. I should clarify that right now, like early on, we highly encouraged everybody at Dapper Labs to participate in the economy so that we could understand it, right? There's nothing like being a part of a thing to understand it correctly. And something with the CryptoKitties world is I was a huge critic before I joined the team that I didn't feel like, for the most part, they understood what they had built. And that was because they had a play policy where they weren't allowed to understand what they had built, not from the perspective of actually, breeding cats. Like they put in place a policy where people had to stop buying and breeding cats because, fairness. And there's certainly something to be said about that. But at the same time, you do need to have the ability to use the product to really, really grok it. And so early on, we were encouraged to participate, and I certainly did. I didn't need the encouragement, right? I had helped build exactly what I wanted to see in the world, and so I'm a kid in a candy store when it comes to Top Shot. It's exactly what I want in every way. I make sure of that. That collection is something that is meaningful to me. But I should clarify that as we have exploded and as we have grown to a bunch of people who don't know who we are as Dapper Labs, who we don't have an established level of trust like we did with the early crypto community, who were the biggest early adopters of Top Shot. We've hit pause on that. Like Dapper Labs employees won't be buying packs from drops anymore. From the limited edition drops that happened because we want to make sure that there's enough, well, there's never going to be enough, like I said, but that the fans and collectors, all have as much of a shot as they can have. So we won't be participating in those anymore. We'll understand what that experience is like from reading your very loud feedback, and thank you all for that. And for right now, we're not buying or selling either on the marketplace, but we're just evaluating what is a way to do that fairly, where we can continue to experience the product and get to enjoy what we've built, but in a way that everybody continues to feel is fair and doesn't jeopardize our trust with the community. So I do talk about my collection. I, like the Flaz, was lucky enough to decide early enough that I really wanted a complete base set collection from Series 1, as difficult as that was and as sometimes kind of painful as that was. Buying a Harry Giles today is a rite of passage to those people who want a complete Series 1 base set collection because of some sort of distribution quirks that we've blogged about. But I was lucky enough that I did complete that while it was sort of within my budget range. Right, I justified it, and I don't think that was a wrong decision. But it's a very special thing, and what pushed me over the edge was a tweet that went out saying, "I'm one of 1,000 people who can ever complete this set." And I read that and I thought, ooh, being one of 1,000 people today means being like, 1 in 3, but tomorrow that might feel really, really, really tough. And so that was what pushed me over the edge into finally completing that collection for myself when I could. And I'm so happy I did. It's such an amazing collection. And now I can also say I'm one of 1,000 people in the world that will ever be able to have that complete full set. And, good luck getting that out of my hands.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so that was
monetary.
it was price wise that was difficult for you. It wasn't because you had to buy a Boston team.
That a little bit too. And in some cases it meant selling some of the moments that I had that the market was valuing very highly, that I also valued highly, but I just had to make the choice of, I should be more fiscally responsible and not put this on my credit card. But then how am I going to afford all of these moments I still need? And so I did part with some high value. I parted with a number of LeBron James moments that I owned at prices that today, don't look smart, but I don't regret any of it. Right, it allowed me to complete my base set collection, which I now get to hold forever, and it's super special. And I made sure I held on to at least one of each of those LeBrons, so I'm still good there.
You've created such an interesting mix of incentives in Topshot. When you look at the marketplace deciding where the value is, and you get ones where you have the jumper number, and then you have ones where it's potentially a fairly common player, or he's sort of low down on the rankings, as it were, but he's got a number one serial number, and so there's so many different areas where the market can find value. And it must be fascinating being on the inside watching the marketplace price things in a really interesting way to do with all of those various mixtures that sort of pinpoint value in new ways.
It definitely is one of the more interesting ways that people have been pinpointing value, which is something that we've considered and something that we look at, but not something that I expected to catch on the way it has, is this concept of implied market cap for a given edition, right? So for a given type of moment, where people will look at the edition size and the market low price and sort of extrapolate out, all right, so the market is saying that, this moment is collectively worth, $1.4 million, and that moment collectively is worth $1.8 million, and then deciding whether the relative values make sense on the basis of that, because it's not apples to apples, as you say, right? These are NFTs. By design, we wanted to make sure that these felt like NFTs, which means that they're non-fungible, that this one is not the same as that one. And while sure, number 3747 and 3748 of a random John Wall play are going to be fairly fungible, that doesn't mean that you can just look at the last sale price of a John Wall and know what the value of a John Wall is. And so in order to try to create closer to apples comparisons, they've created these tools like the implied market cap for a given moment, and use those to compare. And that's all been very fascinating to watch from the outside.
So can you give us any details on the video game that's coming?
So what I can say about that video game, which we call Hardcourt, is that we've been working on it for as long as we've been working on what we call the collector's experience, which is the NBA Topshot that we all know and love, that exists and is in beta today. But that building a game it's a special kind of hard. And it's a special kind of hard that we have less experience with as a team. Obviously, we've built CryptoKitties, and we built some aspects of Cheese Wizards to be collectible, and we understand collectibles fairly well. We knew what we wanted to build and how to build it there. And for Hardcourt, we knew the set of goals that we had. We knew that this was going to be our opportunity to introduce NFTs to a whole new audience who would never even think about, spending money on a digital collectible, but who maybe spend millions of dollars collectively on throwaway in-app purchases in games. And imagine introducing them to the concept of spending that same kind of money, except you're not just burning it, right? It's creating value for you that you can then realize later if you need to or want to. And it becomes its own kind of asset class. So we knew that there was a great opportunity there, especially with sports. And the NBA was super excited to have another game that was unique and different in the marketplace. So we've been working on this game since then, but it is a different set of challenges, and we're being particular about it. We want it to be good. We want it to be fun, and we want it to do a good job of accomplishing that goal of exposing people to NFTs, while at the same time working within the very fuzzy, unknowable limitations set out by the gatekeepers, right? The app stores of the world, who decide what can and can't go on their platform, and who have a vested interest in closed systems, really. And so navigating that is difficult. And it's something we continue to do, and we continue to work on. And all of it is something that we continue to work on. And there's a lot to love about it, but we're not going to release something that doesn't feel really great to us. And so we're not quite there yet. And so when we talk about timeframes, I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, and they were famous for they wouldn't release anything until it was ready, no matter what. They would delay and delay and delay. And that is what built the reputation for quality. And the reason why everybody shows up on day one to buy whatever they put out is because it's going to be a quality product. Certainly that was the case, 10 years ago when I worked at Blizzard. Maybe they've had a little bit too much Activision rub off on them since then. We'll see. But we want to have sort of a similar kind of thing, right? And so we'll probably release a beta version sooner than later, and sooner than it's like absolutely everything that we want it to be, right? Because we do want to release it. We do want people to get their hands on it and provide feedback, because the feedback is invaluable. But we also don't want to shout from the rooftops until it is quite what we want. So there's not a whole lot of details to share, and everything is subject to change. Anything we can do to make it better, we will, right? Even if that means major overhauls. And we've had some of those along the way as we experiment and as we work to build exactly something that we can all love and be proud of, and that can just do great things for the collectibles world. So that's something that's coming, and something that we won't rush.
So as I understand it, it's going to be free to play and an active game, so you'll actually be controlling the players on the court. Is that?
Yeah, so it's more arcadey than anything. It is an active sort of arcadey action game where there's sort of two aspects of it. There's the actual gameplay where you're controlling a player trying to make a basket, right? You're playing basketball, and then there's the outer gameplay of where your NFTs really come in and shine, which is you're building up your roster and you're training up your players and you're essentially equipping players with moments that you own, and a rare moment or a legendary moment, if you have a player that has essentially a slot that can take it, is much more impacted by slotting in a legendary than a common. Right, it's adding more value, but so it's a combination of earning it through gameplay. You're earning your victory through gameplay, and you're also earning sort of the right to use more of your moments on your players by leveling them up and growing them, while at the same time having your collection matter.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how that comes out and having a go and getting stuck in. Maybe that'll be another episode that you can come back on and tell us all about it once it's ready.
We'll make it a trilogy.
So we've got a couple of questions from the community, sure, which came back this morning. So Carla McJ would love to hear about Dr. Seuss.
Yes, me too. We were lucky enough to sign a deal with Dr. Seuss to bring Dr. Seuss to the blockchain, to Flow, so that we can have that same sort of mass market, consumer friendly experience of collecting something that everybody the world over loves, and that would be Dr. Seuss, and that would be those fantastic stories and characters and environments and just creative worlds of from Dr. Seuss's imagination. Getting to bring those to everybody is going to be amazing. There's not a whole lot that we can share about that yet. I would invite everybody to go to drseuss.onflow.com, and there's an opportunity there to give us your email address. We talked about how nice it was for the people who were able to be in the earliest days of the closed beta for NBA Topshot. And a large number of those invites went out to people who had signed up for a similar form, right, a year before that release came out on NBATopshot.com. So if Dr. Seuss is something that's at all interesting to you, please do go to that drseuss.onflow.com. It might actually be drseuss.onflow.org. I'm second guessing myself. Try them both, and sign up for that. And there's a chance that you can be one of the very first people in the closed beta when that comes out to experience it and get some of those details for yourself.
Well, it's interesting for me, certainly, but it's far more interesting to my 6-year-old son. So you open it up to a much bigger audience there just straight away.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think you nailed it, right? It's not just a new audience, but it's an audience that very young people can really connect with, and that families can enjoy together, and parents can share with their children. We hear a lot of stories actually of parents sharing Top Shot with their children, which is amazing. But I think for a lot of people, Dr. Seuss will connect on a much more visceral and emotional level with their children, and the creating those shared experiences. And there's a lot of value in hooking them young.
Well, that's going to be one of the App Store tick boxes, isn't it? I'm sure. The other thing that Carla asked was interoperability of kitties with metaverses. Well, will she be able to play with a CryptoKitty in Sandbox or Axie? And also, how are you looking to recruit newbies to CryptoKitties?
Yeah, so we've had this concept of the Kittyverse since, well, sort of the community came up with the concept of the Kittyverse. They started building experiences on top of CryptoKitties, which caught the team off guard at the time. and started building games and different experiences, things like kitty hats, which caused the company to like realize the potential for extensibility and the value of composability on the blockchain. And that was really what led that and scale. Well, so that was really what led to Flow, in that Ethereum was promising, hey, we're gonna scale. Like, this is a temporary problem, in 2017 and 2018, they were saying by next year we're going to have all this solved. But the way that they were proposing to solve it, even if they had accomplished what they were promising, which of course they haven't yet, and that makes sense. It's a very difficult problem. But even if they had solved it the way they said they were solving it, they were planning to do so with sharding, which would mean that your assets wouldn't live together, and that makes something like kitty hats, right? Something as simple as a hat owned by a CryptoKitty would become exponentially more difficult to implement from a developer point of view. It would have so many more points of potential failure, so much more cost involved. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine like the gas costs involved in dealing with a sharded system on top of everything else on Ethereum today. And so there's real problems when your assets live in different places. And so the whole promise of Flow is that it's a scalable platform that lets everybody be on the same shard, lets everybody share the same computational and state environment. And so once we bring the CryptoKitties to Flow, they're going to have access to everything else built on Flow now and in the future. And so it's our job to make sure that like the developers of Sandbox, for example, understand everything that would come with them, building on Flow instead, and being able to engage in those experiences and have that interoperability be fully native on chain, on the same state space. And when you talk about something like Axie Infinity, they've committed to, like, they saw the same problems we saw at CryptoKitties. They have a much smaller team and much less resources, and so they committed to what they could with what they had access to, which was I believe the Ronin like layer 2. But what that means is if it's not on that Ronin shard, you're not going to have a whole lot of composability or extensibility where a kitty can interact with an Axie. But now they could certainly build a bridge for kitties to come onto Ronin, and that would be cool. And I hope they do, and that would be fun. But the point of Flow and the point of when CryptoKitties comes to Flow is that you won't have to build that specifically in each case. You'll kind of get it for free because you'll all be on the same shared blockchain space.
And the last question is where Kitty was asking, what's the main difference from a product perspective to design NFTs for Flow compared to Ethereum?
One of the main differences is I don't have to worry about the minimum cost of an NFT. We could not have, we would have been able to only basically release legendaries on NBA Topshot if we were launching on Ethereum, right? Everything would be a 1 of 99 because the costs associated with producing, right, just minting the NFT, with transferring the NFT, with listing the NFT for sale, just don't make any sense at any other scale right now on Ethereum, which is terrible, right? Because it just prices everybody out of the market, and it doesn't even give people the opportunity, even if they have the funds to be able to interact at that level, right? A lot of people want to try it first. They want to dip their toe in. They want to buy a common pack and open 3 moments and experience that before they're dropping tens of thousands of dollars on a collectible. And Flow lets us do that, whereas Ethereum today absolutely would not. So that's, I think, one of the biggest differences is that. Also, you look at the scale that it provides us, not just in terms of price point, but in terms of availability of moments. We've minted over 2 million NBA Topshot moments already, which is more than the number of CryptoKitties that exist. Again, CryptoKitties they've been breeding for 3 years. It's slowed down considerably as the cost to breed a CryptoKitty is now tens of dollars, which is ridiculous to someone who has experienced breeding for less than $1 in the past, right? It's really hard to pull the trigger, at least outside of certain fancy chases or prestige chases, maybe. But we don't have that concern with NBA Top Shot. We can do that. And that allows us to have this incredibly vibrant marketplace where no matter what your budget is, you can show up and you can find something in your price range that is interesting to you and meaningful to you, speaks to you as a fan if you're an NBA fan. And that's super special. And then, you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to acquire it. You can pull out your credit card and buy it. And that everything was designed around incredibly cheap transactions, incredible network latency, fast responsiveness is another huge thing, right? When we designed the pack opening experience, we were still a little bit stuck in the Ethereum mode of, all right, how do we hide the fact that it's going to take minutes for these to actually show up in your wallet? And then the Flow team was like, nah, it's not. It's just gonna be so quick that you almost don't even have to worry about it. And so we put in a couple of considerations in the pack opening experience to make sure that it was as seamless as possible. But by the time you're done opening your pack, those moments are actually in your collection, and it just works the way you expect it to, essentially. And that was not possible on Ethereum at all. So those are some of the biggest differences.
Well, I've certainly, the idea of moving NonFunGerbils to Flow
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, to mint at the moment is so extortionately expensive.
It really is.
We've just got to hold back and say, okay, right, we owe you some gerbils. They're coming, but we're waiting for a dip, and that dip is long awaited at the moment.
I mentioned getting that commission from Diego, and I'm paying in Ethereum, and Diego is like, all right, so normally I ask for half up front and half later. I'm like, can I please just pay you 100% up front so I don't have to make a second transaction?
Wow, it's really broken, isn't it?
It really is. And, there's the old joke that, that restaurant, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Obviously, ETH maximalists who just love the idea of the value of their ETH going up will try to defend that experience and say, like, no, it's a good thing. It shows that people really love Ethereum. And yeah, sure, absolutely. I completely love everything Ethereum has given us. But that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it good to spend that kind of money. And I for one am just super happy that Flow exists.
Well, speaking of Flow and well, gerbils actually, we always give our guest a gerbil and they come on the show. And actually, we thought it was a little bit unfair that you always put in an entry. And then we don't give you an extra gerbil. So the last time you came on, we just gave you one gerbil, which you'd already earned anyway. And it's the same for this time. So we figured that it'd be very nice to complete your collection and give you our copy of
way
of FOMO gerbil.
that thank you. That you've got me. I talk way too much, and you've got me speechless.
Well, it was just unfortunate that it was joint the scarcest gerbil. There's only 9 of them, and then George and I have one each, and then there's one for the podcast, and Lydia's got one, so that's 4 that's never going anywhere basically. So yeah, we thought it'd be nice. So we'll send you that straight. Well, we'll send you that when the gas tips.
That is incredible. Thank you so much. I'm super happy that I've got my Series 1 NBA Topshot base set collection. But I think this might be equally special. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much for inviting us into the beta all those many months ago, and how much we've enjoyed the product, and yeah, it's the least we could do, really.
Thanks for taking a chance on us and giving us all the feedback and for helping us tell our story to the world. I re-listened to that March interview that we did and talking about Top Shot, and I'm proud of our team. So much of what I described as our vision for what we wanted to have happen is coming to life, and there's more to come, and it's super exciting. But it's great to know that even before we had launched our closed beta, even before anything was knowable, we had a very strong vision for what we wanted to see, and it's mostly come to life, and it's great being able to go back and listen to that because of that podcast episode. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been great to catch up with you and hear the latest, and I feel like we've gone into some good depth, into the product, into flow, into everything that Dapper Labs is doing at the moment. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you both.
So on to gerbils.
Yep.
We have some entries to read out for Baller Gerbil, our special Baller Gerbil who, yes, well, let's have a look.
So thank you at Dragon Nate for this cracker of a entry. Ain't no challenge too big for Baller Gerbil. He got his name by completing any and every challenge given to him. Sometimes, when no one has given him a challenge, he'll seek out an uncompleted challenge from challenge.es, where he can earn rewards for proof of challenge.
That sounds incredibly gerbily to me.
Yeah,
sounds very non-fungerbil.
Sounds like a plug of some kind. To be frank. Nice advert, Dragon. I see what you did there. Next up,
we've got Rude Moose. Bippity boppity Baller Gerbil. Wishing he was a little bit taller gerbil. He's got the mad packs, hypes the run it back to the good old days with all the sick plays, a full set Series 1 base. How's anyone going to compete with that? In your face.
It's got it all. It's a bit rappy. It's certainly quite gerbily, and it's got a touch of the old NBA in there.
Yeah,
Nice work.
And if you try reading it out yourself, you'll find that you naturally always do a hand gesture with that last in your face bit. I don't know how that happens, but it does.
Next up at Black Echo 22. Thank you very much for this. Francis was a baller, used to play at the park. He'd be dropping dimes from dusk until dark. Now he's playing pro because his game is hot, enough to have some moments on NBA Topshot. He started catching fame with his gerbil friends, who all jumped on the hype of the newest trends. They all invested big into some packs and collected some good moments worth a bunch of stacks. Baller Gerbil Francis was one of a kind. His moments were rare and they were hard to find. His sales were setting records while he was winning games. What would Baller Gerbil do with all his newfound fame? He won a few trophies and retired a pro, so now he just invests his money on flow. Collecting moments, breeding cats, he really didn't know, Baller Gerbil Francis, how far he could go. His baller status acts had been so successful, the Dapper even made him his own Baller Gerbil medal.
Oh, that is a very inspired story. That's fantastic.
It's a cracker. How did that not win? I mean, that's got everything.
Reading it back now, I don't know how that didn't win. Actually,
yeah.
This is
because the winner really is that good.
Every time it was such a difficult decision to make this one, and every time I read one of them, I'm like, yeah, that's the winner. And then I read the other one, I'm like, yeah, that's the winner. And then I just go back and forth between the two.
Well, it speaks to the quality we're now getting through in our little gerbil cage letterbox.
Yeah, absolutely. So very sorry that you didn't win that Black Echo.
Try again.
It was a tough call, and to much surprise actually, and probably makes this even more strange, is that the winner isn't even basketball related.
No,
which was not the idea, and is not what we were expecting with Baller Gerbil. But well, we'll just have to let Alan take it away, and then we can see.
Baller Gerbil used to be in debt until one day he discovered Wall Street bets. Now Baller Gerbil rakes in the cheese and brought the hedge funds down to their knees. So next time you're tempted to short sell a share, think of Baller Gerbil and don't flip and dare. And that was from Walshy. Congratulations, Walshy.
Amazing. It's very of the time, isn't it?
It was such a key moment in history. It felt like he's captured that moment and just put it really succinctly into a gerbil description that we couldn't not do it.
Absolutely. The time the internet found its its power from an investing perspective. It's super on point.
Yeah, on point. So it's a different type of baller, but equally just as baller.
Awesome stuff.
So next gerbil, we have our next artistic collaboration
Dun, dun, dun.
with Lapin Mignon.
Ah, the sweet rabbit.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know that actually until I saw someone else mention it. Obviously, I don't speak French and you do, George.
Oui, bien sûr, alors.
So yes, Lapin Mignon has come on board for a gerbil collaboration. And we discovered her art during the Pranksy calendar and fell in love with it. So we are doing a super fun one, slightly different than usual. It's going to be a superhero gerbil. And it's a superhero gerbil with silly powers. And you get to name your superhero gerbil with silly powers and set the backstory. So this opens up the doors a little bit. It'd be very interesting to see what comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing what all you brilliant creative people come up with.
Yeah, and then we're going to do a joint collaboration on the actual artwork itself with Lapin Mignon. So how does NonFunGerbils work then? So we give you the name. Actually, in this case, you come up with your own name. We just give you the theme. And then you write a short backstory for that gerbil, painting an image. And then we pick the most entertaining or inspiring or hard-hitting, any of those things. It's got to stand out and make a beautiful visual out of it. So yeah, send your entries to @NonFunGerbils and hashtag superhero gerbil, and then hashtag the name of your actual gerbil as well. And everyone who puts in an entry will get a NonFunGerbil NFT. We'll get that one. And the scarcity of each gerbil is determined by how many people put in an entry for a gerbil on that given month. All right, George, it's been a pleasure.
It's been another great show. I'm going to go and buy some more packs. See if I can get a Zion William this time.
Good luck, because the demand is high.
Ah, yes, I'd forgotten about that. Oh, I'll join the queue. See if I get lucky.
Join the queue. Yeah. All right, mate. See you later.
All right, mate. Catch you later. Bye, mate.